All right, guys, we got through with zero. We've came out to the range. Now we're actually going to get a range card, all right, or gather our dope. Dope was initially the data gathered on previous engagements. That's what dope means, all right? In the past, we would actually gather our dope by shooting at different ranges, starting out at 100, what we did previously, moving to 2, 3, 4, and so on. This would actually take a lot of time, and you'd write all the information down in a data book. And you'd carry that data book with you when you found yourself in a position that was somewhere like something you shot in the past. You would pull that information up and actually shoot the hole that you shot previously, that you got the actual impact that you were looking for. Well, nowadays it's a little bit different, all right? The Army ballistic computer and the ballistic solver that the Marine Corps went with is the A-Trag. It's from Horse Vision. Guys, this will work in mills, it'll work in MOA as far as your holes. The computer works in anything. It's not set to a Horse Vision scope. It can run off. We even teach people how to true their ballistic reticles, all right? In the military and law enforcement, even in the private sector and the hunters, they actually use sometimes a ACOG that is a ballistic reticle or other types of ballistic reticles, all right? But the PDA works with any kind of weapon system. But what you need to understand is it's a predictive polynomial curve. It's still just a close guess, a mathematical close guess, all right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually go through the PDA. I'm gonna show you how to use it. We'll go step by step. If you have any questions, just blurt them out and we'll walk through them one by one. All right, what I want you to do first, I want you to actually go in and build a gun. So down bottom, low left, hit gun list. All right, once you've done that, hit add new gun. All right, then go ahead and name it whatever gun that you wanna name it. And a lot of times with a lot of the groups I work with, I want them to name it your name, Mark 13, 191, whatever your ammo is. For the hunter or for whoever else, if you have different types of ammo, you might set up the same gun with different types of ammo. It may be Black Hills, maybe Ruag. If you're shooting the same stuff, you may have a different weight of the bullet, like a 175 or a 168, something like that. So you don't have to go in and change a lot of stuff each time you go into your PDA. You actually just get to go in, down select the gun and ammo combo that you're working in, pull it up, and you're ready to go. All right, now that you've actually named a gun, what I want you to do is go into gun list, select that box by that name, and hit open. All right. From there, what we're going to do is go to up at the top left, it says gun. All right, we're going to plug in all our gun data now. All right, what you're going to see is it's going to pull up a lot of gun information. All right, first is your bore height. All right, you can measure from center of bore to center of scope. All right, and when you do that, somewhere right at your turret. All right, it should be in the center of the bolt to the center of the actual turret on your scope. Now, if you don't have a micrometer or a ruler or something in the field, and we really try and work around doing stuff in the field as much as possible, all right? You can take your finger, and every line on your finger is real close to 1 inch, all right? And I'll show you that it really doesn't matter that much, even at long range, if you're a 1/4 of an inch off on your bore height, all right? So once you've got your bore height plugged in, I want you to plug in your bullet weight, all right? Next, after you plug in your bullet weight, plug in your bullet diameter. Now, you're shooting a 30 cal bullet. Unless we're running 5.56, which we'd plug in .223. The next one down is C1 coefficient. All right, that's your ballistic coefficient of your bullet. All right, back in the 1800s, Charles Cupp came up with the way that we actually define what a bullet is as far as the numerical value that we put on it. All right, so he shot a 1 inch diameter bullet, all right, that weighed 1 pound. And when he shot it out, he deemed whatever the actual performance that bullet actually gave him, he deemed that to be a 1 BC. All right, he made another bullet, deemed it to be a 0.5 BC. From that, it's the same way that we look at girls and go, wow, she's a 10, she's a 6. It's the same thing that we're doing with the bullet, all right, but we're just putting a numerical value on it, all right? So really what you're doing now, you're trying to define how efficient that bullet is in flight, all right? How well it will fight through wind, how well it will maintain velocity. That's what we're looking for. So the 175 grain bullets, go ahead and plug in .47. And we'll quantify this a little bit. A lot of the data that you're going to see, the 175 Sierra, they say it is a .496. All right, that's based off of a G1 scale. All right, so we need to talk about G1s and G7 scales. A G1 scale is a higher lenticular curve based off of a bullet that is not as efficient in flight. All right, so with all the math that it has from muzzle velocity and weight and efficiency of the bullet being the BC, it's going to have a higher arc, all right, a higher lenticular curve. Then you have a G7, which is something like you'd use for a VLD bullet, which is a lower lenticular curve or a more shallow lenticular curve. All right, well, if you look at it, really, the ATRAG ballistic solver doesn't run off either. All right, it's a morphed G1, G7 that was actually developed by Bill Davis with all the data that he built shooting through Dopplers. All right, this is actual flight data of the bullet itself. All right, so he took that data, compiled it, Horus Vision bought it, and actually stuck it in a ballistic solver. So we're not really in a G1 or a G7. That's why a true G1 may be somewhere closer to a 4.96. I'm not going to argue that point. All right, but what we've actually found is the actual G1 is closer to a 0.47. We've actually shot at 1,000 yards, thousands of bullets, and actually tracked, shooting through 3 chronographs all at the same time to where we had a good close guess. All right, you really need a calibrated chronograph to do this. All right, but based off the actual impact of the bullet, it can tell you your actual BC if you know the velocity. The problem with this, ballistic solvers are predictive, all right, meaning that they're giving you a mathematical guess. Well, if you have a BC that's slightly off, all right, it's going to actually, and you shoot through a chronograph that's even calibrated, but it's actually not a real BC, your ballistic solver is not going to give you accurate data, all right, because you have bad information. It's just a computer. You put in bad information, it's going to spit out bad information. So what we did, we went in and changed it. We have a truing option, which we'll get to in a minute, but I'm going to explain a little bit of why we use a truing option. All right, if we don't know, or we're just getting close to an actual BC for that bullet, all right, and we find out where the bullet actually hit downrange, somewhere around the start of transonic flight, all right, and the reason we do it at that range is if you do it anywhere any closer, you can't see the separation in the algorithm. But the further we go out in clean air meaning there's not transonic shock waves affecting the flight path of the bullet, the further we go out, we see more separation in the algorithm, so we can actually refine it a little bit more. All right, so basically what we do, we tell the PDA where the bullet actually hit. By doing that, we're truing the actual data that the PDA is spitting back out at us. All right, so that's a little quick lesson on BCs and how we actually use them. We'll teach you a little bit later how you can actually go in and figure out the actual BC of your bullet by truing your BC. All right, now, next we'll go into rifle twists. All right, when we started looking at rifle twists, basically guys, your 308s that we're running today, most of them are all around 11 twists. All right, the 300 should be somewhere around a 10 twist. That means there's 1 rotation in 10 inches of barrel, all right, or 1 rotation in 11 inches of barrel. So if we have a 15 twist, it actually takes longer, so it's actually a slower twist to get that full revolution. All right, so you actually need to know what your twist rate is of your rifle. It's actually going to give you spin drift. So even with a no wind environment, shooting at distance, your bullet will track off with a right hand twist in the direction of your twist, which would be right. All right, so shooting at 2,000 meters, you know, you say, well, how much does it really matter? All right, shooting out to 1 grand, it's really not that much. All right, but shooting out to 2 grand, you can have 40 inches of spin drift nearly, all right, at 2 grand in 0 wind that you have to account for. All right, so we'll get back into that a little bit later when we start, and I'll show you on the guns how much there actually is. All right, so next we have muzzle velocity. All right, we've talked through a little bit today. The different barrel lengths are going to determine muzzle velocity a little bit, but we're actually going to find our muzzle velocity. All right, the way that we do that is through truing. So we'll go get set up on the weapons here in a minute. We'll lay down, we'll find the exact range. All right, in doing that, we're actually going to use the laser rangefinder. We do not meal the target trying to estimate range, because if we don't do a really good job estimating the range, we're basically gathering data off of bad information. All right, so we laser the target, we know exact range, you plug the exact range in, and from that point, then we can actually find the actual real muzzle velocity that that bullet is flying on because of where it hit. We already know the BC. We're going to have the correct density altitude plugged into the computer. The only other option is actual muzzle velocity, and wherever the bullet hit, it tells us the muzzle velocity. We're not making up anything on our own. We're actually tracking where the bullet hit, and the bullet tells us what the formula needs to be. All right, so once everybody's got through with that screen, your zero range is at 100 meters from this morning. All right, next screen is atmosphere in the middle column. Go ahead and hit on it. All right, you're going to see AT and TBH up at the top. AT is altitude and temperature. TBH is temperature, barometric pressure, and humidity. All right, I like to run on the temperature, barometric pressure, and humidity because it gives a closer resemblance to what the bullet is actually flying through, all right, on how dense the area is. Temperature and altitude gets us close, but we're at 2,700 foot right now, and within a couple of inches until the end of time, we're going to be at 2,700 foot. but because of cold fronts and warm fronts that come through the area, the bullet may think that it's 400 or 500 feet higher or lower than that because how dense the air is at that time. So if you use barometric pressure, all right, you're going to get a closer resemblance to actual denseness of the air with temperature, barometric pressure, and humidity. And humidity doesn't play a huge role, and I'll show you in a minute how much it actually plays. All right, most of the time we keep our humidity at 50%. All right, that's pretty much across the board. You can plug in the exact number if you want to, but I'll show you here in just a minute. We'll make a full swing. You'll see how much actual change there really is. All right, target, you go ahead and hit it. All right, you're going to see latitude and direction of fire in the first two columns. All right, what that is giving us is actual Coriolis. All right, Coriolis is while the bullet is in flight. All right, if you're shooting it at a long enough distance that it has a long enough time of flight, the rotation of the earth, all right, what you thought you were aiming at has actually moved and moved around the rotation of the earth. So if you're aiming at the top of this target, if it has a long enough time of flight, it's moving around the curvature of the earth and you're actually shooting due east, you're going to hit high. At 2,000 meters, you'll hit close to 20 inches high. Obviously, shooting to the west is just opposite. All right, it's moving to the east, so your bullet is actually going to hit low. You were aiming at the head, but it actually moved up. The perception of where you aimed, your bullet's going to hit that at that spot, but the target actually moved up around the curvature of the earth. All right, so wind speed. All right, wind speed, there's two blocks now. All right, there's wind 1 and wind 2. Obviously, wind doesn't always blow 6 miles an hour. All right, so what we did, we went in and plugged in where we could say, hey, wind's gusting today from 8 to 10 miles an hour, so you can plug in 8 and 10, and you don't have to wait for a medium wind to shoot in. All right, it may have spit out, hey, wind's from 6 to 10 today, and you plug in an 8-mile-an-hour wind initially, and so you're having to shoot in the medium wind. Now I know my holes for a 6, I know my holes for a 10, I can extrapolate between those holes at any wind speed anywhere in between. All right, so we're making a more knowledgeable shot at all times. All right, underneath that you have wind direction. This is in clock positions. All right, so based off the line that you're shooting at towards your target, 3 o'clock's going to be due right. All right, 9 o'clock's straight to your left. All right, obviously based off that, it's going to give you a cosine of the wind and the actual value of it. All right, inclination angle, you have C and D. All right, C it says 1 right now and D 0. All right, that means that if we were shooting at 800 meters, you have a full 800 meters, all right, that you're shooting as far as how much your bullet's going to be affected by inclination. All right, so if you actually plugged in 60 degrees, you're going to see that the C is actually going to turn into 50%. All right, so that's what this is. Depending on which inclinometer that you're actually running, you may actually have something that says, hey, I have 30 degrees right now, or you may have something that says 71 or 87, whatever your cosine is, all right, for whatever degrees that you're actually looking at. So that you can plug in either or and it will change the other one for you. Next line down, target speed. All right, you can plug in the movement of your target as you're looking at it. We can refine this and do this several different ways, but that's what this is for. If the target's moving 2 miles an hour, you plug in 2 there. All right, if you go and look at target range right now, go ahead and plug in 800 and hit done. All right, we'll get back to target speed in a minute and I'll show you a quick way to actually find the actual speed of the target that you're looking at. I told you to plug in 50% humidity. All right, Travis, I want you to go under atmosphere and change yours to 10% humidity and tell me your hold.
8.67.
All right, 867, change it to 100% humidity.
861.
All right, difference of 0.06 mils. All right, 0.3 mils is real close to a minute of angle. It's 1.08 inches at 100 yards. All right, so what you're going to look at is 0.06. 0.1 is a third of that, right? 0.06 is nearly half of that. So you're looking at a sixth of a minute of angle in a full spectrum of humidity. All right, 0.06, we can't hold it. We hope that we can run somewhere around a quarter minute. All right, a quarter minute would be awesome if we can hold a quarter minute. All right, most of the guns and ammo combinations that we work with are somewhere closer between a quarter and a half. Hopefully, you know, still ½ inch is really, really good. All right, so when you're looking at a sixth of a minute of angle, this isn't something that we really worry about. So by plugging in 50%, what does that do? Cuts that air in half, and now we're only dealing with 0.03 mils, all right, which is turns into a 1/12 of a minute of angle. All right, so it's in either direction. So it really doesn't matter that much.
So getting wrapped around humidity, which I hear a lot of people doing, talking and talk, it's not worth it.
Yeah, it's really not. All right, if you're shooting out at extended ranges, and I'm talking 1,500 meters with a 308, then I might want to go ahead and actually plug in the actual humidity. But you're going to see once you start testing and playing with it, even at that, it's not going to be that much off. You know, you're going to have a lot more problems come up that you can't assess whether it was from the humidity or not. All right, shooting at those kind of ranges, or shooting out to 2 grand with a 338 Lapua, something like that. It's not bad to actually plug in the actual data, whatever the actual data is, but you ain't got to get wrapped up on it out to 1 grand, you know, what we're going to be shooting today. All right, so everybody's looked at gun, atmosphere, and target. Then you have truing drop. Now that's what really sets us apart from most of the crowd. The truing drop information is what we talked about earlier. That's what we're fixing to go do. Guys, we can take, after we've zeroed, all right, from that point, we move out, and within 1 round, we can actually get a good true. All right, Jason St. John and Robbie Johnson, a couple of shooters that I know from down at Benning, they were shooting in a sniper comp, and we actually sat down and did a quick demo with them. At 795 meters out, I told them to shoot at a target after they zeroed a gun they'd never shot before with ammo that they'd never shot before. They zeroed the gun, got a good quick zero, turned around and shot at 795. I gave them an errant muzzle velocity. I told them it was too fast. I knew that ammo wouldn't be running that fast, but I knew we could see the miss and see where it hit. All right, based off that one miss, we gave him a second shot correction, which hit center, plugged the information into the PDA. So from that one miss, we had our algorithm. We had a pure range card. All right, now from that, he engaged targets from 300 all the way out to 1,000, never missed high or low over 4 inches all the way out. All right, so.
Like you said, this does set you apart from the crowd, and how did you come up with this concept of truing?
You know, it was what I call cowboy math. I grew up in West Texas. You know, it was common sense approach to everything, ranching and farming. So instead of being a ballistician, all right, and I know that to be more refined, if I had a calibrated chronograph and I really knew the actual BC of the bullet, and that becomes another issue because bullet companies sell bullets by BCs and basically the terminal effects of the bullet that it has on target. All right, so if you're a target shooter or a paper puncher, you want a good high BC, something that's going to fight wind well and fly good. All right, if you're hunting or doing something else like that, obviously you have to have both. You know, you have to have one or the other. You may have to give up a little bit here or get a little bit, you know, somewhere else. But basically you want it to do damage on tissue so you can have a good, quick, clean kill when you're out hunting. All right, so when I was looking at that, I noticed that my BCs always didn't match up with what the company said they did. All right, and like I told you earlier, the way I actually find my BCs. And I called Ken Ayler, the guy that makes the Ayler chronograph, and asked him if what I was doing was correct. And he said, absolutely, we're gathering actual data that way. It's an actual BC. And I've talked with Brian Litz. All right, he's a ballistician for Berger, and he absolutely agrees that what we're doing is correct. If you have a calibrated chronograph, all right, and if you know the actual BC of your bullet, then you don't have to true. All right, it's going to give you a good algorithm, and it's going to be a pure algorithm. But the problem is laymen, we don't have access to Dopplers. All right, if you got a Doppler in your backyard, go use it. All right, it'll give you good data. Most of us ain't got one. All right, so what we have to do, based on where the bullet hit, I didn't want to read off PDA because PDA actually gave me errant data. If you want to do headshots at 800, a lot of times if you just go off what the PDA said, you were going to miss. So basically what I did, I said, hey, this is a page that I want. This is what I want it to say. When I shoot, wherever the bullet hits, I want to plug that in and tell the PDA to change all the math to match where that bullet just hit. All right, so minimal starts about, with a 308 today, about 600 meters. That's minimal. All right, up to transonic. Now transonic is right at, in my opinion, about 1,340. I know it's a little bit pre-subsonic, but depending upon density altitude, I don't want to get into transonic flight. All right, so 1,340 feet per second is getting close to transonic. All right, and so that's what we're working off of. All right, so you're going to look at your range card here in a minute. You're going to change your last column to remaining velocity, and you're starting to scroll down until you see 1,340. So go ahead and do that now. Hop into range card up at the top right. All right, once you plug that in, down at the bottom it says last column on the bottom left. Last column, make it read remaining velocity. And you may need to change your setup to 5 meter increment. All right, you can start it at 100, in range being somewhere around 2,000.
1343, that's what I got.
Yeah, that's close. That's good enough. So what range is that at?
810.
810. We need to find a target out here somewhere close to 810. All right, and then we'll actually take a shot on it. And if we're shooting 5.56, 300 Win Mag, all right, the closer you get to transonic, the more pure your algorithm is going to be for what we have access to. Like I said earlier, if it's a calibrated chronograph into the known BC, it's going to give you good data.
So 1340 is that magic number then for any caliber?
Yeah, because it's speed of sound. Yeah, 1061 plus temperature of the day gives you a close speed of sound, all right, converted to feet per second. So if today's, 70 degrees, all right, 70 plus 1061, all right, it's 1131. All right, that would be the speed of sound today. And it's not perfect, but it's within a couple of feet per second. All right, so it's good enough for what we're doing. All right, so the 1340 is pre-transonic flight. All right, what we don't want to do is actually run out and try and true a 308 at 400 meters, because at 400 meters, I can be a minute of angle off. All right, I can be doing headshots on an 8-inch plate at 400. All right, when I do that, the top of my cone, all right, the top of my dispersion on my 1-inch group is in the center of the target. All right, the bottom of it is nearly at the bottom of the plate. I'm calling that, hey, that's just me, that's just me. I'm hitting center, and then you hit one that's a little low, and you want to blame it on yourself. No, you still remember all the good things that happen in life. So you're saying you think you're good. You may actually adjust it up and move it, but the problem is the difference in a minute of angle at 400 is 120 feet per second. All right, once you move out to 800 meters, that same change is going to be over a mil. All right, so you can't assume what your muzzle velocity is by truing at 400. You need to stretch the algorithm out to see the actual dispersion, all right, and see the difference in where the predictive algorithm is and the actual algorithm is.
So we want to miss by a mile, not by an inch.
Yeah. Any more questions? All right, if no more questions, grab your stuff. Let's go over to the guns and we'll actually sit down and true. All right, guys, now what I want you to think about is your scope has to be exactly level. All right, it's very important. We really push putting bubbles on the scopes, all right, because if you can't as much as 2.5 degrees, which seems to be really hard for people to actually see that they're canted that much. Obviously, looking out here, we're not on a golf course range. This is a real world range, has lots of curves, lots of hills. It's real hard to depict what is level. All right, so having a scope level is real important. If you're 2.5 degrees off, you're going to hit 0.5 of a mil every 100 meters in the direction of your can of your scope. All right, so if you're 5 degrees off at 800, you're going to be 0.8 mils in the direction of the can of the scope. So really work hard at leveling the scope, making sure it's as level as possible. All right, Travis, pull up your PDA, go to range card, find 1340 under remaining velocity and tell me what range that is. And y'all remember, this is what we call pre-transonic flight, the transitional period to where the bullet's going from supersonic into subsonic flight. All right, we want to go right up to the edge of it, all right, right before we go into transonic flight.
795.
795, all right? Look out to the left, all right? There's 2 targets on the left side of the range. Go ahead and hit the closer one.
That's 797 at the...
All right, that'll work.
So that's perfect.
And it really doesn't matter. You can be plus or minus, 50 meters on this thing. You're going to be okay, all right? But you really want to be somewhere around that range. Like we said earlier, if I had to, I could do this at 600 with this weapon system, but it's going to give me a cleaner algorithm, a more pure algorithm, the further I can go out pre-transonic, all right?
Speaking of the level, it's funny because this particular target where it's at, the horizon looks straight out there, so I naturally want to put my reticle on the horizon, but when I look at the gun level, it's not level at all, so that's something that people need to really think about.
Yeah, and a lot of times as you look at the target down over the top of the scope, if you level your top turret,
yeah,
all right, it's going to give you a closer guess than just looking through your reticle. All right, a lot of times out here to mess with the guys for training purposes, as you notice, we hang the targets a little off-centered, all right, to where they're not straight up and down. All right, that's on purpose. And guys, remember, it's real important. We've already plugged in the current atmospherics, all right, barometric pressure, temperature, all right, and humidity at 50%. But we've actually already plugged all this information in. It's very important that this is actual, not a guess. All right, so go ahead and get it good and level. What does it say for 797 meters? What does your PDA say?
8.78.
8.78, your hold, right?
Right.
So go ahead and give me 8.8 in the center of the body on that target. Go ahead and hold left edge. All right, elevation actually looked really good. You were probably belly button height, but your impact was close to 0.7 to the right of where we were holding. So go ahead and hold 0.7 left. And guys, we really don't care. Doesn't even matter if you hit a plate. A lot of times I like to really refine guys on small rocks out at this distance because we can actually see we don't get caught up. You don't want to just hit steel. If the steel's beat up and you hit steel and you're going, yeah, but I'm hitting the target, you may be a minute of angle low. You may be around 0.3 mils off, 0.4 mils off, still hitting steel and incur bad data for your algorithm. All right, so go ahead and hold 0.7 left, send it again. All right, it was just off the right edge, nearly center for height. So we did a good job estimating the actual muzzle velocity of the weapon system. So go ahead and give me 1 mil left. Good, it's a nice hit. All right, you hit just under the lower chin. Send one more to confirm. All right, it's a headshot. All right, so you're holding center body?
Center body.
All right, from that, I want you to mill it and tell me how high you're actually hitting above where you're holding. You're about 0.3 high, correct?
I am.
All right, and you were holding 8.8?
My impact is 0.8 high.
0.8 above where you're holding?
2, 4, 6.
Tell you what,
no, it's
the
6,
average hit's about 0.3 up, so you were holding 8.8. Give me 8.5, center of the target.
8.5.
And all you have to do, guys, is just place the 8.8 where you're holding and look at where it was hitting on your reticle. Center body, left edge. All right, so now what you do is you go to your home page, go to options in the bottom left. Once you pull up that, you're going to go to truing drop halfway down that pop-up screen.
Okay.
Under the range, you're going to see a drop of 8.8 in a white column. Change that to 8.5. All right, hit calc on the top right.
Got it.
All right, and then hit use MV, and then hit accept. All right, once you've done that,
okay,
look under your gun information. What is your muzzle velocity?
25.75.
All right, good deal. All right, now, Travis, what you're going to want to do now is go into gun list, select the gun you're working in, and save your gun so you don't lose all that good data. And guys, really, it's just that easy to actually find your data book or your dope. All right, perfect dope, and we could have done him in one shot. All right, he actually hit off the right side. All right, then he hit the target consistently, just barely high. We actually told the PDA where his bullet was hitting, and now he has an actual algorithm. All right, so once you save that gun data, you're good. And that would be good information to actually write into your actual data book now, is what the muzzle velocity was on this lot of ammo. Once you shoot out to that distance, you want to come back in and confirm at a medium range, because if you did anything wrong with your data for atmospherics or gun data, you're going to have an error in your algorithm and you won't hit where you're holding. Now, what we're going to do real fast to verify, you see the target that's about 400 meters out, the one just underneath the heel?
Yep.
All right, range that target.
405.
405. Plug in 405.
.5.
2.5. Go ahead and give me 2.5 on the target and hold 0.4 left. This is just confirming that we really do have a good algorithm, guys. Give me 0.4 wind, which is left edge. 2.5 center body. Fire when ready. All right, center hit. Good job. All right, Chris, you're up. You're going to do the same thing, so you're going to plug in 797 into your PDA for target range.
I've got 8.7 is what mine's saying.
All right, give me 8.7. You're shooting 308, correct?
Correct.
All right, go ahead and give me 0.7 left. All right, just off left side elevation was good. Give me a center wind. Nice hit. You hit right on Travis's bullet on the left side. Go ahead and hold right edge. Give me another shot. Just up above on his left shoulder, just probably 4 inches under his left shoulder. It's still well within half minute of angle on the target. That's good, both shots. All right, so we know we have a good algorithm. Go back in, make sure you save the gun. All right, Mike, same deal. All right, just give me center wind.
8.78.
All right, so you'd hold 8.8. You just round that last number up. Headshot. All right, you were holding center body?
I was.
All right, go ahead and give me another shot. We'll confirm. All right, we'll stay with 0.5 right. Headshot again. All right, so from where you're aiming, look in mils, how far it is to where your bullet is hitting. Looks like about 0.4, correct?
That's what I'm getting to.
All right, so you dialed on 8.8, so take 0.4 off, come to 8.4. All right, go ahead and give me another headshot. Aim with your crosshair on his head now. Good shot. Another headshot. Stacked all your bullets right there together. For your 300 win, we're going to push this out to 1,038.
Well, Todd, I found that really interesting. I mean, just conducting a test, just expanding on the zero at a range we once thought of as the maximum effective range for the weapon system.
You know, it really is. Used to, it'd take, you know, a couple of hundred rounds to actually lay down and shoot at 200 and 300 and 400. And at that time, you're actually incurring human error into your dope book, all right? So while you're gathering your dope, you're actually incurring all the errors that we put into it. So what we're trying to do is actually just take out the human error as much as possible, gather the data at the maximum range pre-transonic, and then once you do that, you have a perfect algorithm all the way back. And really, you did 3 headshots at 800 meters, all right? Which a 308 used to, they thought that was the maximum range. We'll push that gun out to a mile, and you'll stay on that same 16-inch plate at a mile.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's interesting, but you know, it's a deal. It's not hard. You know, in a lot of schools, they used to teach that 800 was kind of give or take. You know, you'd hit some, you'd miss some, and obviously as wind increases, it's going to get hard to call wind. You know, the reason we come to West Texas for training is wind is constantly, you know, 15 to 20 miles an hour every day. You know, we've been real lucky, you know, today the wind wasn't really blowing that much, you know, but it's still tricky because of all the terrain features. You know, wind changed left and right. Nearly every time somebody got up is a different wind for them, you know, so the winds out here every 5 miles an hour, you lose about a 10% hit probability. You know, it sounds like a lot initially, but you're 4 really good shooters. But I promise you, if you lay down tomorrow morning and you say, okay, there's a target at 800, you have a perfect dope book now. You have a perfect, you know, range. You lay down, take a shot. If the wind's blowing 23 miles an hour, I promise you, you know, you're going to have about 6 out of 10 guys be able to make the shot and hit and connect past 600, you know, by calling their own wind, making their own judgment, and making that shot. So, That's why we come out here. It's not hard, and you can do it very fast.
And like you said earlier, the greatest thing about this concept is the minimal amount of ammo. I mean, like you said, Mike just made 3 headshots right after he just got done zeroing. And we did that at 800 yards, and we confirmed at 405. So we just saved a lot of time, money, and effort, where normally we would do exactly that. 100, 200, 300, 400, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and how many rounds and how much human error is going into that with body position and all other stuff. That's a really great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up something good. That zero is very important. If you have a bad zero, guess what's going to happen?
Everything
when you shoot
else
out at
magnifies.
range, you've got bad data now. So you may hit, you'll be perfect at 800 because your bullet just hit there. But those interim ranges, that's why we went back and checked at 4. If you had a bad zero, it's going to start showing up at that distance. So,
well, the other part was the fact that you said the bullet doesn't lie, because when Travis first shot, he had to make some adjustments based on some speed. And the fact is, you can argue that all day long, or you can enter in the correct data of what it actually is, and therefore really true to the gun and the bullet and everything.
You know, it's really interesting. The truing deal is really scientific. You know, even though it's kind of a cowboy method of getting, it's kind of like doing the backwards math, you know, to getting your data. But it's very scientific in that that's where your bullet just hit. Why would you want to argue with your bullet? So if that bullet doesn't get to vote, once it leaves that barrel, it's going to have the same drop due to gravity every time that it goes out. So if you have the correct density altitude, if you have the correct BC, the correct muzzle velocity, it's going to hit at the same point. We may not know the exact BC, the reality of it. We may not know the exact muzzle velocity, but as long as we get really close on our BC, all right, go off of, you know, the factory specs of that bullet, all right, and true, if you actually go off the factory spec of the bullet and it's slightly off, and guys, I have 2 good chronographs, and we interlink them and shoot through both of them at the same time. And they're high dollar chronographs, and they're 20 feet per second different than each other. All right, so that 20 feet per second at that target distance is a miss. All right, so we can't go off that. He couldn't have made 3 headshots if he was 20 feet per second off. All right, so what you really got to do is accept that even though you may be a little bit low on your BC, your muzzle velocity is going to actually be a little bit higher in the PDA than what may be reality on a calibrated chronograph. But it doesn't matter because the algorithm is going to be correct. Right? You may be slightly off, but it's going to be less than what the minute of angle of what you can shoot and what the gun can hold. Right? So it's still a very accurate algorithm to actually use.
All right, so what's next?
What's next is we'll actually learn to use a PDA. All right, so we're going to range targets, plug the information in, go from 300 meters all the way out to 1,200 meters. And with the big guns, we'll actually even push out further. Then after everybody feels comfortable and they understand how to use everything, we'll even go further than that. We'll push out to a mile.
Well, that's certainly going to be interesting, going out to a mile with 308.
Everybody does it. Everybody in the class hits a 16-inch wide target at a mile.
Well, let's do it.
All right, let's go.